his skin color is irrelevant. It is the left that has made it an issue. Nobody else. But they've made it such an issue that people didn't want to be seen as racist if they did not vote for him. Now, let me be very clear. I didn't vote for him. I did not vote for Barack Hussein Obama II. Oh yeah, folks, that is his birth name, the second. Not Junior, but he's the second. Barack Obama also only met his father once. Well, he only met Barack Obama Sr. once in his entire life. Obama Sr. died in 1982 in a car accident in Kenya. Most likely because the driver was inebriated. Yes, Obama Sr. Was known to have taken to the drink. But the issue is that if you look at what Obama has accomplished over the past 4 years, and if you notice and pay attention to who Obama's mentors were since his days of growing up in Hawaii, his mentors, his closest friends, his companions, they have all been radical leftist communists. All of them. They've all had a leftist, radical, communistic agenda. Of that, you cannot dispute. As a matter of fact, Obama himself does not dispute it. He admits it. He admits his love affair with his communist brethren. He admits his mother's disdain for his stepfather, Lolo Soetoro's change in Indonesia. Did you know that Lolo Soetoro, Barack Obama's, Barry Soetoro's stepfather, went to work for an American oil company in Indonesia? His mother was livid. She flipped out. She was so mad at the senior Soetoro that she eventually sent good old Barry back to Hawaii to live with her grandparents so he would not be affected and influenced by pro-capitalism. Stanley Ann Dunham's father was also a noted leftist. So here you have this guy grows up in a leftist environment all his life. He has a father in which that he says he gets his dreams from, that he wants to follow in the footsteps of in certain ways, who was also a noted communist radical Muslim. Of this, there is no denying, simply because in Barack's 2 books, Barack himself admits to all of this. So the notion that I'm making this stuff up means that you people who say that didn't even bother to do your due diligence to follow up on this guy. You didn't bother to read his books. You didn't bother to listen to the commentary about his books. You didn't bother with anything. All you did was sign up to the notion of change is good. Change. Fundamentally change his country. Let me tell you something. We can go down the policies, of which we will do, of these last 4 years of what Obama decided that he wanted. And I will prove to you that they are not of the United States capitalist free market side. They're not, folks. Now, I can go down the line And I have done this before. I can go down the line with just not even paying attention to any of the pundits, just using Barack Obama administration governmental statistics. And this is what always trips up many admiring, wonderful, blind minions of Obamanites. You mention a fact that is true of Obama, and they jump all on you like you're a racist or something, and you say, hey, time out. I got this information directly from the Obama administration. And they're like, you must be misinterpreting. I don't know how you misinterpret the number of 23 or 25 million unemployed. How is that a misinterpretation? They give you the number. They tell you how many people are receiving food stamps. And you can go back and find out how many people were receiving food stamps under George Bush and under Bill Clinton and under George Bush and under Ronald Reagan. They can tell you all that stuff. I don't know how we're misinterpreting those numbers. The numbers tell us from the Obama administration that there are more people, 1 in 6 right now, soon to be 1 in 5, in poverty in this country. I don't know how you misinterpret that. Those are the numbers. The U6 number, by which all other presidents except for Obama have been measured for unemployment, states that the unemployment rate is 14.8%. I don't know how you misinterpret that. It's quite plain and simple that if Obama was a white man, if he were elected to be president, he would not be reelected. In such that many African Americans would not even vote for him. In fact, they'd probably stay home rather than vote for Mitt Romney, but they wouldn't vote for him. This was one of the downfall parts for Jimmy Carter. Look at the stats of the votes cast back in 1980. It wasn't because the black vote was suppressed from the outside. They just didn't vote for the guy because he sucked. Let me tell you, there are people in places like Chicago and Detroit and New York where blacks are not happy with Obama. But you don't hear that on the lamestream media. We've got fewer people working today than 4 years ago. Again, that's an Obama administration number. How do you misinterpret that? There was a number 4 years ago, and there's a number today. That number today is less than that number 4 years ago. How do you misinterpret that? Plain and simple. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. But you've got to understand that this guy is not done with tearing this country apart. And let me tell you why. In this, I can tell you everything. But you're going to need to do your own due diligence as well, because you're not going to, you leftists aren't going to believe me anyway, even if the evidence just grows legs and slaps itself up against your head. But here's the story. Barack Obama is anti-colonialism, thus he's anti-American. How can you say he's anti-American? Now, hold on. Let's take a look at some of his policies, shall we? We'll let Barack tell the story. Then, after Barack tells the story, I want you to tell me how we could possibly misinterpret them. Barack tells a story with his actions and policies over the past 4 years. Now, I'm going to set this up for you to understand that our good friends, the English, the Brits, they are or were a true colonial power. Absolutely. No denying it. The French were a colonial power. Absolutely. No denying it. So were the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, and to a lesser extent, the Italians. Many of the nations that we know to be Old World Europe were at one point over the past 500 or 600 years colonial powers. Many of those nations held on to their colonies well into the 20th century. The French were one. The British still have a few strongholds. They are a true colonial power. Now, you got to understand, the United States was a part of that, not as a colonial power, but as a colony. United States was a colony of Britain. Well, before it was called the United States, it was the 13 colonies. There's a reason why they call it the 13 colonies. Because we were colonial. Obama has a strong distaste for colonialism. And you can probably say, well, how do you know? Well, first of all, there are a lot of countries. Let's take the two that really mean a lot to Obama. Kenya and Indonesia. Both were colonies. They were ruled by the British and the Dutch. They didn't like colonial power. Obama's father didn't like it. Not at all. Now, these weren't obviously the only two nations that had colonial rulers. But Obama sees what his father saw in this. And he's transposed it to the United States because, indeed, if you talk to people in places like the Middle East, Northern Africa, parts of Asia, they view the United States as a colonial power. We are an empire. What we do is we come in and we strip those countries of their valuables. In this case, Middle East oil. We have made our money off the backs of somebody else, not because we've worked hard, but because we've stolen it from our colonies. Now understand this also, that many of these former colonial nations, especially around the Middle East, do not like Israel because they view Israel as a minor colonial power. Why? Because Israel is occupying land that it does not own. Israel is ruling over and controlling, the Gaza, Palestinians. They're acting like a mini colonial power. Israel can't do that. It's not allowed. Why do you think Obama has shunned Benjamin Netanyahu? He can't stand Israel. Why do you think he sent back the bust of Winston Churchill to England? Because Churchill represented what? The last bastions of a colonial empire. Winston Churchill was the prime minister that ruled over the last great Yahoo for the British Empire, which controlled Kenya in his father's day. Oh, no, he cannot stand to have that bust in the same room as